Welcome to LaughNapkin. Today I had 3 stories for episode 8 of r/MaliciousCompliance. So hit that thumbs up, smash that subscribe button, and let's get into it. You want me to include our boss in all work-related communications with you? This one happened not so long ago, so I've changed a few identifying details. I work in a health clinic where I'm a practitioner and the office manager. We're a small clinic and generally pretty close-knit. It's my job to organize all kinds of things, including any social events for our staff. It was coming up to Christmas and we'd done the usual staff party, but because we had a particularly busy year and worked hard, I decided it'd be nice to organize a night away with a dinner and show. How wrong I was. Enter our cast. Me, boss lady, and drunk staff. There were more people, of course, but these are just the key people you need to know. I wanted everyone to relax and have a good time, so I nominate myself as the designated driver and pick up a few people on the way to the hotel. The evening starts well with a few casual drinks and nibbles at the bar before we head out for a night of entertainment. So far, everyone is behaving well and generally having a good time. We're in good spirits and treated well as we're escorted to a VIP area to mingle with other guests until the show is ready. We meet a few people we don't know and get on well with them, so I order them a couple of drinks with our next round. Next round, they offer to return the favor, and just before I can say thanks, drunk staff says, "Let him, he can afford it, he's rich." Boss lady and I were pretty taken aback by this comment, but tried not to draw too much attention to what was said. They buy the drinks and drunk staff grabs one before anyone else, and then swipes 2 more before anyone else had even been given theirs. Boss lady and I chose to forfeit our drinks because of this, which didn't bother me too much because I was driving later anyway. I had a quiet word with drunk staff and cautioned her to slow down and pace herself as we had a long night ahead. Eventually, we were shown through the restaurant and seated ready for the show. Drunk staff continues to order drinks and for the most part seems to be holding up okay. Boss lady wanders off to the bathroom before the show and our first course is served while she's up. Everyone starts except for me as I wait for my special order. As I wait, I smell something weird that I thought might have been some kind of strong blue cheese or similar to it. I'm sniffing around trying to find the source as boss lady comes back to our table. It's at this point we notice drunk staff has vomited all over our table, herself and her neighbor's plates. Yikes. I go into damage control and try to clean things up as quickly and unobtrusively as possible while boss lady takes drunk staff to the bathroom to get cleaned up. Unfortunately, I wasn't quick enough and the venue staff asked our entire party to leave. We get it, we're guilty by association, so nobody argues. Except for drunk staff. She argues to the point of having security called to escort us out, dropping her belongings as she goes. She's a mess, and I pick up her purse and try to encourage her to walk out with us. Big mistake. After a few choice words and accusing me of stealing her purse, drunk staff takes a swing at me and clocks me fair in the jaw. She's a big girl, and she has a bit of power in that arm of hers. I'm stunned for a moment and then walk off, leaving security to handle her. She's out of control and starts yelling, "Come back and I'll hit you again." Yeah, pretty classy. Anyway, she was so unruly that security called the police and she wasn't allowed to leave until they'd taken her statement. As it wasn't considered an emergency, we were advised that it could be a few hours until they arrived, but that I could leave if I was happy to leave details. So I did. It was obvious to me that my very presence was aggravating to her, so I saw no point in staying. A few staff came with me, while others went off and did their own thing. Eventually, I get a call from the police who asked me if I want to press charges. I let them know I didn't, but I wanted her spoken to and for there to be a record of what happened. They were cool with that and then told me that she was saying she's quitting her job. I asked them to let her know that I accepted her resignation, effective immediately, and that I would email her regarding pay and collections of her personal effects. I wanted a paper trail. Boss lady and I were pretty upset over everything that had happened and ended up taking a long walk on the beach to talk things over. We decided that we would show drunk staff some grace and allow her to keep her job if she apologized, under the understanding that she was now under probation. Which is exactly what ended up happening. So I drew up the appropriate paperwork, official warning, probation, etc., which the three of us signed. Boss Lady and I thought that this would be it and we could all move on and work professionally together. Until the next evening. Drunk staff had taken home her work phone, which was against company policy. It had been requested several times prior that she leave it at the office each evening, but she seemed to think that she could just get away with ignoring a direct instruction. Boss Lady has implemented this rule long before I started at the company, and it was my job to ensure things like this were carried out. Boss Lady was aware that drunk staff was taking the phone home and she had asked me to sort it out. This led me to verbally reminding drunk staff to leave her phone at home at the end of the day. However, just after she left for the day, 5 p.m. on the clock, I noticed that she had taken the phone home again. I sent her a text at 5:04 p.m. that said something along the lines, "Hey drunk staff, just a reminder to please leave your phone at the office at the end of each day, thanks." Well, she flipped, because I was messaging her late at night. She was literally still in the car park, and harassing her. I let Boss Lady know what had happened and sent her a screenshot. While I was doing this, drunk staff had created a group chat between the three of us, asking me to keep all work-related communications with her in the thread. No problem. So the next day, when she was 15 minutes late, I sent her a message in the group chat asking if she was okay and still coming in. When she was chasing Pokemon during work hours, I addressed this with her in the group chat. Extra time for lunch break? Group chat. Rude to patients? Group chat. Asking her to return the items she had borrowed without permission? Group chat. Following up on the piles of work she hadn't done because she was spending hours each day on her personal phone? Group chat. Bad attitude when dealing with staff and clients alike? Group chat. Inappropriate clothing to work? Group chat. Needless to say, that probation period wasn't seen to its completion. She tried suing us for wrongful dismissal, but it was dropped pretty quickly when assault of a colleague and insubordination was brought up. Don't touch the settings? Got it, boss. A few years ago, I briefly worked in this office where almost everyone was horrible. The boss and the managers were very rude to us workers and treated us like servants. I have a bunch of stories about that job, but yesterday's post about someone printing 400 pages reminded me of this one incident. There was a meeting between our boss and some very important people. They needed to look at a certain document, but the boss forgot to make photocopies for everyone, and the VIPs were annoyed because they had to pause the meeting until photocopies were made. I was tasked with making the actual photocopies, while the boss sat around having coffee with the VIPs and complaining about incompetent staff. One of the managers handed me the document and told me to make 4 copies. At the time, I had never used a professional office printer, and there were a lot of buttons on that thing, so I asked him which settings to use, one-sided or two-sided, black and white, and so on. Manager, don't touch any of the settings, just make 4 copies. Okay, so I walk up to the printer, put my original document in, selected the photocopy option, selected 4 copies, and clicked confirm without even looking at the other settings. After a while, longer than expected, the printer started churning out sheets of paper in A2 size. For you US folks, that's twice the length and twice the height of letter size. Pretty much a small poster. I wasn't able to stop the printing, and so I ended up with my 4 copies in A2 size, because those were the settings used by the last person who printed anything. I figured the boss and the manager didn't want their document in this huge size, so I went into the settings panel and tried to set the printer to use regular A4 letter size paper. As I said, I had never used this kind of office printer, and the manager had refused to explain anything. So this task had taken me maybe 5 minutes already. As I'm pushing buttons on the machine, the manager pops his head out of the conference room and calls out to me. Manager, OP, are those copies done yet? Why are you wasting time? Me, yes, one moment, I'm trying to. Manager, why are you touching the settings? I told you to leave it as it is. Stop messing with that printer and bring us the documents already. Me, yes, but the copies. Manager, hurry up. And he slams the door, refusing to listen to me. So I figure, whatever, this is still readable. I drape the printed A2 sheets on my arm and walk into the conference room where the manager, the boss, and 2 VIPs are waiting. Without saying anything, I place one copy of the document in front of everyone. They're so large that they cover the entire table. Boss, what's this? Me, the document you wanted copies of. Manager told me not to change the settings on the printer and it was set to A2, so it came out like this. Both the boss and the manager were pissed off at me. But the VIPs said this document was good enough and they should start the meeting already. Of course, they had heard the manager loudly yelling at me not to change the settings, and I think they found the situation funny. The meeting room had a glass wall so I could see the 4 of them for the next hour, highlighting and making notes on those huge sheets of paper. Stop telling you when mail is missing? Okay. I worked as a mailwoman a few years ago for a short period of time, and my boss wasn't much of a boss. All she did was relay messages from her boss to me. On my starting day, she told me several times, I want to know everything, so if something is wrong, call me immediately. After a few weeks, I started to learn the patterns in the mail. Church magazines this week, tax letters that week, etc. One day, I noticed that only half of the addresses I covered were going to receive their tax letters. It was literally streets A through H got them, I through Z didn't. This was obviously incorrect, and I called my boss to warn her something might have gone wrong at the sorting center. Her reply, it's impossible for something to be wrong there. You're probably just imagining things. Don't bother me with this unimportant stuff. A few days later, she called me. Why didn't you tell me so many letters were missing? It's raining complaints. I told her that I called her. She denied it and told me one more mistake like that and I'm fired. I hadn't made any mistakes up to that point. I knew she didn't read her email, that's why I called. But I decided that if she was so intent on blaming me, I should make sure I have evidence. So the next time I noticed stuff was missing that I was supposed to deliver, I emailed her. No response for 4 days, and then I got a scathing email. Don't email me for unimportant stuff like this. It can't be going wrong at the sorting center. Stop contacting me over every little thing. So I did. I stopped trying to warn her of incoming complaints, and the next week, I saw the perfect opportunity for revenge/malicious compliance. The Christian magazines that were usually delivered to 90% of the addresses had only arrived for 10% of the addresses. Now, an important note, these Christians aren't the nice kind. They're the holier-than-thou kind, and they needed their magazines on time or all hell breaks loose. I once delivered them an hour later than usual due to a heavy workload, and they called my boss's boss to complain. I knew they would be absolutely livid if they didn't get their magazines, but my boss told me not to contact her over missing mail, so I didn't. Judging by her angry phone call that evening, her boss had already ripped her a new one, and she was planning on doing the same to me. I just told her, I have an email from you telling me not to warn you about missing mail, so what did you expect? She tried to yell at me, but I was already done at that point, so I yelled over her, I quit because of your lousy work ethics, and I will hand in my stuff on Monday. Fun fact about my contract. The company wanted to be able to fire mailmen at any moment, so we also got to quit at any moment with no notice. She was pissed. This was one of the first times I stood up for myself, and it felt awesome. The job only paid like $100 per month and wasn't many hours, so I didn't really care about losing that income in exchange for not having to deal with that boss again. Edit. To clear things up, yes, $100 is very little. It was only a few hours per week, and the company lowballed employees when estimating how much time things would take, and you get paid per letter. I didn't email my boss's boss because I had no way of contacting him. The emails were security if she tried to pin something on me, since stealing, hiding mail can carry a heavy fine, and I wanted whoever might accuse me to know that I was merely following her rules. This happened in the Netherlands, where it's normal for contracts to require you to hand in your notice weeks in advance. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really enjoyed making it. Don't forget to join my Discord if you want to submit your own story or just be part of the LaughNapkin community. And please, consider subscribing as it helps me out big time.